Welcome to episode 338 of the Thunder Underground podcast. Trent here as always. And this week, Page Hamilton of Helmet returns to the podcast. Very happy that Page is back with us here. He was on here in 2020, and now he's on here just under the wire in 2021. One of the final episodes here, as you could definitely tell by the calendar, we are just a couple of days away from Christmas if you're listening to this when it comes out. So I hope you guys have a great Christmas, or you had a great Christmas, or if you don't celebrate Christmas, whatever you celebrate, I hope you have a great holiday season. Great New Year's, all that stuff. Speaking of New Year's, next week, the final week of 2021, I'm going to attempt to put out the best of 2021. Been the last week or two kind of compiling all the records that have come out, writing everything down, trying to go through it. It's funny, I was always really excited about this episode every year. And this year, even though there's been a lot of great music, I'm not as pumped about it since Jason's not here. Here I'm calling him out, He'll probably be listening to this one because I know he digs some Page Hamilton as well. It was always great, to sit down with Jason and talk about all that stuff from throughout the year going back and forth. This year will be a little bit different. Kind of just rattling off my opinions, I guess. So we'll talk more about that next week. But in the meantime, we're here for one reason, and that's to talk to Page Hamilton. So before we get into that, I need to let you know who sponsors this podcast, and that would be Sunset Tattoo. It's a tattoo shop located in Tulsa, Oklahoma. 25 plus years of experience. Their tattoos are done good and proper. They're state licensed. And most importantly, they are mother approved. Jake Thompson does excellent work. You can check out photos of all his work at Sunset Tattoo Tulsa on Instagram, and the same thing on Facebook. Give him a follow. Check out all those photos. See the great work that's been done. I know a lot of musicians that have been on this podcast, a lot of touring musicians coming through Tulsa have had work done by Jake. I've personally had work done by Jake. I'm very happy with it. So you should get yourself some as well. Give him a call, set up a time to get in there, and make it happen. We've also got Hell Hot Hot Sauce, a hot sauce company based out of the San Francisco Bay Area that makes small batch artisan hot sauces. You can find them all at hellhothotsauce.com. If you're on the West Coast, there are a lot of stores out there, but anywhere else, get on that website, look them up, and have them ship you some bottles. You're listening to this because you love rock music, hard rock, heavy metal, and Hell Hot Hot Sauce does as well, because they do collaborations with artists. They've got one with Florida Frank from Hatebreed. They've got one with Ghoul. They've got one now with Night Demon called Heavy Metal Heat. I really want to try some of that. I've not yet. I've tried the other two I just mentioned. Also, Techno Destructo from Gore has one that is excellent. I've had the chance to try that as well. There should be forthcoming sauces from Zetro of Exodus, as well as Death Angel as well in 2022, so be on the lookout for that. Follow them on the socials and get you some of that sauce. We've also got Med Farm, a dispensary located in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, 24683 East Highway 51. They're right off the highway. Can't miss them. They've got a drive-through. If you call, text, or email ahead, you can place your order and whip right in there, grab it, and be on your way. And the best part about Med Farm, they already got that drive-through, which a lot of dispensaries don't. But they're open 24 hours a day now through that drive-through. I know the in-store part closes, I think, at 10 or 11 p.m., but 24 hours a day, you can go through that drive-thru and get your product. If you mention Thunder Underground, they'll give you 10% off your first order. They're always running other specials, so follow them on their socials. That's MedFarm, PHARM on Facebook, MedFarm OK on Instagram. MedFarmOK.com is the website. You can see their entire selection at Leafly.com. But most importantly, they're cannabis with a cause. 30% of their proceeds at all times go to build no-kill animal shelters. There's not another dispensary around here that can claim that. So, no matter where you're at in the Tulsa area, I know you've got tons of options, but make the drive over here. You can be there within probably 20 minutes of wherever you're at. So, get over there and help support a great cause, and of course, mention Thunder Underground. Finally, our longest running sponsor, DEB Concerts, have brought in tons of great acts to this area. Bands like Saxon, Last in Line, Junkyard, LA Guns, Striper, Warrant, Lita Ford, Beasto Blanco. The list is very long. They've even brought Snoop Dogg and Nelly to the BOK Center last year. And guess what? They've got BOK Center concerts coming in 2022. They've also got other concerts coming which will be announced here in the new year. And of course, every year they book the Roadhouse stage at Rocklahoma, which was recently announced that Rocklahoma will be staying on Labor Day weekend in 2022. They made the switch in 2021 for Memorial Day, and it looks like it's now a Labor Day tradition. So, as soon as all that gets announced, I'm sure we'll have Doug back on here because he's come on here the last few years to talk about the Roadhouse stage at Rocklahoma and all he's got coming. So, follow DEB Concerts on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And of course, we'll keep you up to date right here as well. All right, into the subject at hand. And that would be Page Hamilton. Like I mentioned up front, he was on here on episode 298. Had a very cool conversation. Me and Jason got to talk to him there for almost an hour. And we discussed all kinds of stuff. I know we talked a lot about CBGBs. Tommy Victor of Prong, Helmet and Prong did that co-headlining tour here like 3 years ago. I got a chance to check that out. And we actually interviewed Tommy Victor at that show, so if you haven't heard that one, check that out. That's very cool. We also talked a lot about their album Dead to the World that came out a few years ago and all kinds of other great stuff. The album Aftertaste from the late 90s, which is probably my favorite Helmet album. But on this one, I got another near 50 minutes, 45 to 50 minutes with Page here talking about different stuff. That's the great thing about Page is there's all a point to everything he's got to say, and it's all interesting to me. So I'm sure it is to you as well if you're listening to this. We talk a lot about the brand new release that just came out a few weeks ago. First ever live release, Live and Rare. Features 2 concerts, one from 1990 and one from the beginning of 93. So you get a glimpse into the early days of Helmet. They've also got new music coming probably within a year or so, according to what he says here in this. We also talk a bit about the Judgment Night soundtrack, Danny Boy from House of Pain, ZZ Top, and we open this thing with some college football talk. So, I'm just not even going to ramble about anything else this week. Once again, happy holidays. Let's jump into this. Page Hamilton of Helmet.
Where are you at?
Oklahoma.
All right. That's my home country from my family, my dad's side.
That's right. I think you mentioned that last time.
Yeah.
I talked to you about a year ago. Yeah.
I love it out there.
Like where at in Oklahoma?
I think the town is called Spring Hill. It's a little hick town where Grandma and Grandpa are from. Let me see. Never been there. I wonder where it is. I just remember Grandma telling stories about Spring Hill, Oklahoma City. I guess maybe it was it says Spring Hill Suites. That's not it. Spring Hill. I remember her just telling us funny stories about the first time they saw a car. Like they're like, "What? Yeah, it's not far from Oklahoma City, it looks like."
Okay.
Spring Hill. The directions to it is 42 miles away, south of Oklahoma City.
Okay.
You could pass through Norman to get there, looks like. Or one route you can take, on 35.
Yeah, I lived in Norman for a bit. I'm actually near Tulsa, which is northeast corner. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Tulsa. Yeah. Norman. That's OU, right?
Right.
Did you watch that football game?
Yeah, I was there.
You were there.
Yeah.
Are you a Sooner?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate I love sports. I love college football. I hate when games are affected by bad calls or non-calls, and that was a joke. It really bummed me out. I'm not a fan of either team.
Yeah.
I could care less. I got no horse in the race, but I watched it and I was like, well, you threw a flag and then you picked it up, first of all. So that's first down, Oklahoma.
Right.
And then the fucking mugging in the end zone. Like, did they want Oklahoma State to win? Like, I can't. I mean, look, I'm a huge sports fan, and I've watched since I was a little kid, and I played football, and baseball, and basketball. God, that game left a bad taste in my mouth, man.
Well, that was an instant conspiracy theory because the Big 12, is pissed that Oklahoma's leaving to go to the SEC.
Yeah.
Did they have the officials make bad calls? Who knows? But I
It
mean,
was
OU
wrong. It was wrong. I mean, yeah, it was. They had chances, but those were that. Like I said, that one play where was a first down, and then they still almost pulled it off, and the guy got mugged in the end zone. Man, that's called pass interference. It's a simple call. Like I don't. Oh, it makes me so mad. There's been a couple of calls in the course of my life that didn't affect my teams that really bugged me. One was I think it was the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Cardinals in the Super Bowl. One was Green Bay Packers versus Tampa Bay last year in the NFC Championship game.
Right.
Not pass interference, pass interference. Really? Okay. Like, I just, I'm a Niner fan and an Oregon Duck fan. So I got, it's not my team, but as a fan of the game, the sport, I want it to be fair, like be consistent. That game was, left a really bad taste on it. I was like, oh God, if I was a Sooner, I'd be like, oh man. Oregon had a game like that this year against Stanford. We would have been undefeated going into that god awful Utah game. We came back, played a great second half, and their last drive, they got 60 yards on penalties, ejected our best player. And then on the last play of the game, which we stopped, they finally decided then, that's pass interference. So they got another shot. It was just, I was like, and then our receiver got mugged, got speared, what do you call it now? Targeting.
Oh, right.
And they threw the flag, and then they're like, nah, it was okay. It wasn't, no, they called it on us. I think twice on that drive, ejected our best player. Just makes me so mad, man. It really makes me mad. Just call the game fair, man. I want robo refs. I know.
Yeah, it seems like the last few years in both college and the NFL, there's been a lot of that, more than it seemed in previous years, at least.
Really controversial. Yeah. I hadn't thought about that. Them leaving for the SEC and the conference being like, screw you, interesting. Then insult to injury, Riley leaves. I mean, that's my grandfather. My mom's side was a Nebraska Cornhusker fan, and he had his first heart attack watching Oklahoma, Nebraska. Interesting, because dad's side of the family are Okies, and mom's was born in Omaha. So,
okay.
So it's kind of funny, interesting those rivalries. My father's we're all Ducks because my dad went to college there. My uncles, my siblings, my cousins, we all went there. So, which is a curse, to be a Duck fan. I mean, we've never won a championship. It just sucks. It's like, fuck. God, the best team we ever had, Marcus Mariota. I'm like, we dominate Florida State. We're going to fucking kill Ohio State. Just didn't even show up. Like, Elliott ran for like 220 yards or something. I was like, fuck. Super frustrating, man. Really, it's funny. I wish I'd never liked sports. It would be much easier.
Yeah, it would save a lot of time too.
A lot of time, yeah. I mean, fortunately, my basketball team is Jekyll and Hyde, the Trailblazers, so I haven't really been watching much. Thinking of watching. I've had a really busy day. I'm doing guitar lesson, just back and forth all day, and I'm beat. So I'm thinking, fuck it, I'm just gonna chill tonight, watch the Blazers. Hopefully they won't suck shit.
Right.
Maybe get a one of my geriatric workouts in, pump some rubber tube or whatever.
Right.
But, yeah. Cool. Tulsa's cool, man. Do you know Danny at all from Danny Boy from House of Pain? He lives there.
Yeah, I've met him before, but I don't really know him.
Yeah, good cat, man. Really good cat. Yeah, he's level. He's level. I think I think he's, from what he said, Everlast. Eric he's a little bit of a pain in the ass. And I saw that with him, where he'd be really, really nice and engaging, and then when he was down low, and then when he was up high, he was a jerk, and he was like. I'm like, are they doing well right now, or bad? Because he'll be nice if they're not doing that great. I shouldn't say that.
I wasn't going to lead off with this, but since you brought it up, I was kind of curious on what your memories are of recording Just Another Victim.
It was fun, man. Yeah. It was fun. Those guys came to New York, and I don't know if they were on tour or came out for it or whatever, but we went to our little studio with Wharton Tears down the basement on right off First Avenue there in 21st. I liked what they did. I liked this. I heard a song or two from them. I thought it was cool. I love it. The vocals, and I thought it was fun. I'm not a huge fan of the squeaky toy noise stuff, the woo, woo, that kind of stuff. I don't see the point, but because it's not musical, it's either an aesthetic thing or a staple of the genre. I don't know. But we got in the basement, we got it set up, got sounds. It was John Stanier, myself, Henry Bogdan, our original bass player and drummer, and then Rob Echeverria was in the band at the time. And we set up, and everybody just stood around in a circle and looked at me, and they were like, all right, what are we going to do? And I was just like, we're going to write a song together, right? And they're like, yeah. And everybody's still staring at me. So I was like, well, I got this really badass riff that I've been saving for a Helmet song. It goes like this. And Stanier immediately came up with a cool groove. And then the chorus is like a double time version of the riff, and I came up with those hits, just those, ba, 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 ba. Just kind of a climb thing. So, and a breakdown. It came about pretty quick, Once we got our thing done, that was it. We were done. And then they took it, and we were in California on tour. And I went in for a day, talked to Eric about what he asked me. He said, "What are you thinking lyrically?" And I was like, I said, I'm obsessed with this notion of people feeling like victims, like people feeling this sort of self-absorbed victim. He said, that works great with what I have. So I wrote my lyrics there in the studio and did the vocal, and I don't know how long it took me, not very long. And it was really interesting though, because our situation is, as a rock band, is a self, I'm the producer of Helmet, and it's and I trust my bandmates because they're all great players and everything. And then their situation is different. They're like doing tracks. I think Lethal did a lot of the tracks and stuff. And but they had they had the monitors, and then in the studios back then, like the SSL consoles had a computer screen, a little green screen, but they had a TV up in the middle, and they had porno on the TV. And then they had a giant bag of weed. And I was like, I can't get stoned and be creative. Or like be productive, I should say. I could be creative, but it would probably be like, hanging from the ceiling. So it's funny. They're like, oh yeah, this is our vibe. I'm like, well, like, yeah, I see naked girls, and I'd be like, watching that and not thinking about my parts. So that was kind of funny, we got along great, really good guys. I've lost touch with Eric completely. Danny, I'm still in touch with, I saw him in Tulsa, would text him. I'm going to try to see him next time we're there, because he's got that Outsiders thing, and he invited me to come and check it out or whatever. It's the museum, right?
Yeah, it's the house. Like, he converted the house into a museum, basically.
Cool. Yeah. So I want to do that. And Lee, I saw a bunch because he was with Limp Bizkit back. This is clear back in '97, of course, but because they opened up for it was Korn, Helmet, and Limp Bizkit. They were the opening band. So Another really good guy, very funny. So yeah, it was fun. It was fun. The track turned out cool. It was. They approached us. I think we were one of the first bands that got approached, and so it was still sort of we didn't know exactly how it was going to work, whatever. So we just did it what we thought would be cool, I guess, and it turned out. And then they liked it, so they used it as the lead off track for that soundtrack. So that's cool.
Yeah. Did they approach you and say you're going to be working with House of Pain, or did they make those decisions, like the producers of the soundtrack?
I think so, if I remember correctly. I believe that's how it went. They said, would you be? I'm going to turn this fan off. Would you be into working with House of Pain? And so I checked out the music, and I was like, yeah, this is cool. I like that. That'd be fun. I don't know. I also remember doing an interview with Rolling Stone, and the guy was like, asking me about, God, this rock and rap thing could be really big. And I was like, nah, this is a one-time fucking, it'll never, it's like, that's why I'm not an A&R guy. It like became a whole genre, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was cool. It was really, really fun. We still do our half the song, as an encore sometimes. So it's fun. We did it together twice. Danny and Eric came out in LA. We did an AIDS benefit called, I think it was called Board Aid. It was a snowboarding AIDS benefit thing with Halford sang with Anthrax, and we headlined, and they played right before us. I can't remember who else was on it, but Danny and Eric, I think they were a little tipsy. Kind of got up, and we made we fucking probably made a big mess. We had never rehearsed it or whatever. We just did the slow part, just kind of like, I played the song, and they did it. And then we did it again in Sapporo. Helmet opened for House of Pain in Sapporo, Japan. And we did it, I think, if I remember correctly. We also did it on the Korn tour because Fred Durst kept asking me if he could do the song with us. And so we did. I think we did it in like Portland, Maine. I was like, I don't know, man. Like I don't know how we never rehearsed it. We'll see. And then we did it. It was fine, I think. It's funny.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I guess jumping forward to today, you got Live and Rare just came out. And
yeah,
it's kind
cool.
of a great look into the early days of Helmet. Like, what was your favorite part of putting this package together?
Realizing how much better I am now than I was then. There was a real energy that I love about it. And I hear things some habits that I did, had early on that I've broken, and I've obviously expanded my guitar and vocal and lyrical vocabulary, but there's something about the explosiveness of that first year or two of the band that's really cool. So it was fun to kind of go revisit that stuff. It was a little tricky. Toshi Kasai, who was a guy we work with a lot, engineers a bunch of our stuff and mixes. He kind of did some studio magic. I think reamped some of reamped the guitars, because it was a 2-inch 16-track tape machine that CBGB's had, which, I don't know what the mic placement was, or I didn't pay attention to any of that back then at all, and yeah, I do now, but so I don't know, the guitars were kind of, I don't know, probably a little dirty, a little messy. So Toshi I think he reamped them and cleaned them up a bit. But there's no repair work done because you can't, it's recorded to tape. It's not like you can edit, even though it's mixed in Pro Tools now. So it's a very, very accurate document of where the band was in 1990 and in fall of 1990. And I love certain things about it. I love that, I had kind of found my way as a singer. Like I'd learned a certain part of my singing was very good. You know, my hardcore kind of voice was good. My singing was still kind of questionable. I don't think I had a, beat on it yet. How to sing melodically over a band that loud, was more than anything, because you play to the volume of your drummer, and our drummer was, using a 22-inch Earth Ride for his crash cymbals, fucking brutal, like so loud. So singing over that it's probably how I developed that kind of, percussive, rhythmic, style, staccato style, I guess, just to sort of cut through the din. It's funny shit though. It's cool. It was really fun putting it together. Took a while. The photographer, I remembered from our early days, he was a huge fan, and he put us on the cover of Flipside magazine. His name's Kurt, KRK. And I think he's in Orange County or Long Beach or something like that. And he didn't have any real social media presence. And my manager's assistant at the time, Brian, tracked him down, and we got, it was the pictures I picked and wanted, once he did the prints, I was like, what about those ones that I wanted there? I didn't ask for these. There were some, and I was like, never mind, whatever, this is fine. We'll take what you got, paid him. And that was that. So it's fun. It's kind of cool to see. There's some shots from CB's, but shots from other clubs I have no recollection of playing or where they were, or, whatever. Just, I knew it was that era of the band. So that Big Day Out show was, for all intents and purposes, already kind of the beginning of the end with Peter. I had kind of grown weary. It's a lot of stuff, I don't want to get into. And because he, as far as I know, he watches Helmet stuff like a hawk, and see if I'm going to violate what's the gag, or, you can't say anything or whatever. Like, I don't know. So, you know what I mean? What's it called? A non-disclosure? No, a gag order? No,
gag order.
Once you make a settlement with someone, find an illegal settlement, you can't say anything. It's like, I love the guy. We were great friends for quite a while, but it just didn't work out musically at that point. At that point, I was just ready to I was ready to kind of move on and expand what we were doing, and do more different things. So that Big Day Out concert was fun as hell, but I was probably hungover. I sound like I'm hungover. The hardcore stuff I could do well. So yeah, it was fun. It was a fun day. It was the first time we'd played there. So even though Betty wasn't out because Peter didn't play on Betty. So it was the end of the Meantime tour, basically. I think it would have been January. The date's on there on the album. I forget exactly. I'm pretty sure it was January of that year. So it would have been 93. And we'd had a hell of a run, I mean, we're 18 months of nonstop touring the world, when that album came out. I actually flew from New York to Florida. The band took off before me and went down there. So I flew the day after I finished mixing with Andy Wallace. I flew down and met him, and we started the tour. And I think it was Gainesville, Hardback or something like that, with L7 opening up. I think, I don't know. I know that happened. I'm just not sure of the timeline. 30 years ago is a long time.
Right. Well, just listening to those two shows back to back, you hear a big difference in just those 3 years of how tight the band is and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you look at that now, where the band's at now, obviously there's some different players and all that, but like, what do you think the biggest change is of Helmet now in 2021, 2022 compared to almost 30 years ago?
I feel like we've never lost the energy, the honesty. An interview I did before you, the guy mentioned that, just how he thinks why people still are drawn to the music is that it's never been disingenuous. It's not about a style. It's not about an attitude. It's not about trying to do something that we think people will like. It's about doing something that we like. And, and I don't live in a cave or whatever. I listen to music like everyone else. So it stands to reason that if I write something that I think is good, that other people will like it. Not everyone. It's not for everyone. Some people hate us, but some people hate us because, I've heard because my teeth were straight or because my hair was short, or one guy said something about me being handsome. This is years ago. And I'm like, really? That has a lot to do with listening to the fucking music, So that shit cracks me up. But
hey, it's the same reason people don't like Tom Brady, I think. So
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. He's got a hot wife and he's a, bazillionaire and whatever. I don't hate the guy. I don't think he's the greatest quarterback of all time because I'm a Niner fan and that's Joe Montana. He never threw an interception in 4 Super Bowls. So, and he didn't have, and people hit quarterbacks back then. So they don't hit him now.
Yeah.
But he's great. He's great. But yeah, I mean, I think I kind of talked about this earlier. When I did Strap It On and I started and I was around bands in New York and playing shows, clubs like CB's and Lismar Lounge and the Pyramid Club. And our first gig ever was at Louderbacks in Brooklyn. You're hearing a lot of bands, hearing a lot of music. And there was this whole, to me, kind of felt it was kind of a self-absorbed, pretentious, like songwriter. You're a songwriter, singer-songwriter. And I was like, yeah, I'm not, man. I said this to David Bowie. I said, I'm not really a guitar player. I'm more of a shit sculptor. And he's like, oh God, I was like, no, I don't play classic rock. I mean, I can some stuff and I've learned songs and I love classic rock and whatever, but I always wanted to have my own thing, my own sound, my own guitar, chordal, vocabulary and solo vocabulary and whatever. And that's never gone away. But that said, you can't stand still and make Strap It On 10 times, so you new rhythmic ideas pop up, and I've gradually expanded the harmonic vocabulary, from the first like FBLA 1 chord, which was a F C F with an open G, B, and E is an F major 7 sharp 11 chord with no third. That's a great sound with a lot of distortion. It's a really cool sound. Well, I started experimenting with different chords and hearing different things, and so and then with that came more melodic possibilities. So I started hearing some of this, and then I tuned once I was smart enough to realize, I was a baritone in choir. I guess I'm a baritone. I should probably tune differently. And for me, this made logical sense. I tuned down a whole step from back then. And so my low range is in the meat of that tuning. And then I've expanded my vocal range so I can do a lot more, Plus I've done 3,500 shows over 30 years or something like that. So I'm a better singer and I have a lot more confidence now, than I did back then. But so that kind of is part of it. And I've been more open over the last 10 years to working with other people. Whereas early on we collaborated as a 4-piece early on, but I was writing separately and bringing songs in. And as those two kind of approaches collided, my songs I was writing were better than what we were jamming. So I kind of took over as the writer and arranger and songwriter, whatever. And I was I think I might've been accused of being a control freak, which might've been a little true, but I just knew nobody else was going to understand what I was trying to do, and that's, now people have the benefit of, hearing the band since 1989, 1990, 91, when we got better known and stuff. And so they're familiar with what we do, so, but, I'm more flexible. I welcome input. My drummer, Kyle Stevenson, is amazing. And if I have a drum part in mind and he comes in and he blows it out of the water, I'm like, that's way better than what I had in mind. I'm not going to say know my ego's too big to fucking shoot down a great part. I never would do that. So we were still feeling our way too. When I came in with Repetition, that was the first song in drop tuning. I heard it walking home one night up Avenue A. I lived in Stuyvesant Town. I rented a room from a friend of mine, and I picked up the guitar, and it was off the guitar. It was like I had to go down to this note. Am I muted? It shouldn't be. Oh yeah, my tuner's on. So it went down to that note, which is D, and so I had to retune the guitar to get that note. And so I was like, oh my God, it opened all this stuff up. And I started writing what I was hearing, and that's, I think, when the music got, fairly focused and distinctive. Like it was, you could recognize it as something that didn't sound like us trying to be Husker Du or, whatever influences we had. Wire, was a huge influence on me. And there are many, Led Zeppelin, obviously AC/DC, Sabbath, but so when you find your own thing, then it's pretty exciting. It's like, I can still be inspired by and excited by the music I grew up on, but I can do my own thing, so that's still the vibe.
Yeah. Well, kind of compounding on what you said a minute ago about your vocals, like when you listen to like Dead to the World, your voice is in the studio way more melodic now than it was obviously back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Like, so that was a conscious effort to expand that way?
No, it just started, hearing stuff differently. I always sang, there's songs like, on Strap It On, the 3 song, Embrace the Motivation Grows. I can't. Repetition, Rude, Bad Mood, Sinatra. Oh my God, I can't believe I have to look up my own songs. remember fucking titles. I've got a million songs in my head. I've been doing this all day. So, Helmet, where are you? Strap It On. Size Matter, Strap It On. Make Room. The song Make Room is a melodic song essentially, and so is Distracted. Like there's a heavy vocal in Distracted, but those 2 songs, and then obviously with Meantime, Unsung and You Borrowed and He Feels Bad, I was singing, but they were very stripped down melodies, like 2 and 3 note little parts. Unsung is like a pentatonic thing. It's da 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 da, da 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 da, just this pentatonic vibe. Ozzy, very Ozzy-esque. Yeah. And as you start kind of, I don't know what causes it, if it's just like practicing guitar and listening to music and getting better and moving forward, you hear different melodies. So when I heard, I really like that song Look Alive from Dead to the World. It came, I have my phone on random in my car, and it came on the other day, yesterday I think, and I listened, and I was like, it's nice. Like I wouldn't have written something like that. It's very disciplined in a weird way. Like I would have felt like, it's too pretty. When I was 28, is like too pretty. And now I'm like, it's pretty but ugly. The lyrics are ugly, and the guitars are really noisy and thick and dense. And I like that that kind of juxtaposition. I love bands like My Bloody Valentine and Jesus and Mary Chain, that kind of stuff that's very noisy but melodic. So that I think that stuff eventually kind of creeps into your writing, probably.
Yeah, one of my favorite bands is Typo Negative, and I always loved how it sounds. It can sound beautiful, but it also sounds extremely dark at the same exact time somehow.
Ominous, yeah.
Jumping back to Live and Rare for a second, is there other like complete or partly complete shows in your archive, or are these just the ones you're able to pull out?
There's a lot of them. I just don't know how to, I think we've dumped a lot of it over to digital. I have the drives somewhere. On the Rollins tour, when we did that co-headline tour with Henry Rollins band, I think we recorded all the shows on like ADAT or DA80. No, not ADAT. There's DA88 was Tascam, and there was another company. Was it ADAT that did? They look like DVD, like movies, like VHS movies. I think it's ADAT. I can't remember, but I think we dumped all that stuff. So that, one day, I don't know if I have the energy. So maybe when I'm dead, somebody will be excited to go through it all and put an album together. I'm kind of working on a couple of things right now myself. So, and the next thing will be to do a Helmet album, somewhere after the tours. So like this, probably be in the summer, I think, assuming we can finally go out on tour,
Right.
I hope.
Well, as far as that goes with heading to Europe, do you have any, I don't know what the right word is, any trepidation or anxiety about going overseas?
Yeah, I don't at this point. I've taken several trips. I was in Boise 2 weeks ago producing an album for a band, and I was in Texas seeing my brother for Thanksgiving, and I was in New York this summer for my godson's birthday. I was in Oregon. I flew for my one nephew's graduation. I'm flying to New York for Christmas and New Year's. They're pretty good on the planes. Like, got masks are required, and they're cleaning stuff. I feel okay. I don't know. I mean, at this point, I've been pretty vigilant about, using hand sanitizer every time I get in my car, even if I just go down the elevator in my building or whatever. And hopefully I'm vaccinated, hopefully nothing will happen. I really, really, really want to play bad. I don't want people to be sick. The Ministry thing fell apart because of the Delta variant, and now the Omicron thing, so it's not set in stone that we're going. I hope we go. I miss it, that's for sure. We just rehearsed for the System of a Down Korn shows here, and then they got postponed because Serge got COVID.
Right.
So yeah, we'll see.
Being billed as covers and the hits, like, are the covers specifically like the ones that were on the Move On vinyl package, or is this like going to be like a rotating cast of covers, that kind of thing? Or
yeah, the goal is to learn those 4 songs. I wanted to learn the Gang of Four cover that we did for that tribute to Gang of Four before, we did it before Andy died, and he loved it, and he asked for the tracks and everything. And that made me really happy. Obviously we were all caught off guard that he passed away, but there's been a little whinging from my bandmates. I feel guilt. As a bandmate, you always have guilt that you're giving them too much work or whatever, but the only way to keep stuff fresh and moving forward is to keep learning new material, right? And coming up with different ideas for touring. We can't go out and do Meantime and Betty, every fucking tour from beginning to end, and they know 90 songs at least, probably. So we keep it rotated, but I just thought this would be a cool change of pace, because over the years we've done so many covers from the, Music for Our Mother Ocean, when we did, I think that was the Bjork cover. We did the Metal Allergy thing, or Metallurgy, whatever, Lord of This World. Then we did the Jerky Boys. Right. Those are both Sabbath covers. We did the Led Zeppelin cover for that Encomium tribute. We did Beatles cover on Seeing Eye Dog, I think it was, and an Elvis Costello cover on Dead to the World. I want to do both those. We probably have about 10 to 12 cover songs, and the guys that played most of them, just these 4 new ones are going to be, we've played I'm Only Sleeping, the Beatles song, the second Beatles cover we've done. But yeah, I want to do. I haven't worked out the set list yet in my mind. You know how to do it. There's the Bowie song's pretty tricky. The Wire song is tricky because of the repetitiveness of it and how many measures and where it changes and how to build and kind of they build and ebb and flow like a flock of birds, you know, and that's not easy to do. We pulled it off for the recording, but we played along with the original, and you know that was how we kind of got the form. So we're gonna have to learn it. I know I'm probably in for some grief, but you know that's the gig.
Right. Well, as far as you mentioned working on a new album next year, next summer, maybe, like, have you written stuff for it, or is that when you'd actually start the writing process?
I would start writing. I have some scraps. That's about all. And I'm writing a piece for this high school in Memphis called the Christian Brothers. It's their 150th anniversary. It's the oldest high school orchestra in the country.
Oh, wow.
So I have to finish that I have some time. By 2023, I have a year. But I'm gonna, you know, I've kind of started to, you know, organize my shit. I'm doing a session next week for this Austrian series, this TV series. It's a series on TV. It's like a HBO kind of thing, like this 6-part thing. And that's not writing, that's just a hired gun, but they're writing the music around my guitar. And none of it sounds like guitar. He's like, you were texting me today. He's like, yeah, this sounds like church bells. I never knew you were religious. I'm like, yeah, come up with cool shit, you know? So but yeah, the Helmet stuff, I think realistically, once I get back from New Year's Eve from in New York, I'm going to sit down, buckle down. So I'll do like my days where I try to divide it into like, you know, the orchestral writing thing, you know, this Christian Brothers piece, which is mostly brass and woodwinds and percussion, and then the Helmet stuff. Because you get, you know, if you're just beating the pavement on one thing, you know, all day, every day, I think you can get stale, you know, for me anyway. I mean, I first thing I do every day is play jazz guitar. So that keeps me excited and happy. You know, when I produce bands, I have a whole routine. I have coffee in my hotel room, and I play jazz for an hour and a half, and then I could go listen to a rock band for 12 hours.
Yeah.
If I didn't do that, I might, you know, hang myself. So,
Well, speaking of rock bands, final question for you. If I remember right, you're a ZZ Top fan.
hell yeah.
Yeah, like, as we all should be. Like, how big of a factor or influence was Dusty Hill, do you think, on just like rock music in general, blues rock in the 70s and 80s?
You can't even, there's no way to measure it. People that know their hits, they don't know like Rio Grande Mud, or, you know, they don't, you know, Tres Hombres or whatever. They know the hits.
Right.
And they don't know what ZZ came out of, like how they became this band. Or like, oh, it's like blues, you know. It's like, yeah, it's not blues, and you can't play their music, you know. Believe me, we tried covering LaGrange a million years ago, the original Helmet lineup, and it was like, god damn it, man, it's not hard to learn the notes, you know what I mean? You can learn the notes, you know, do dun, 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 you know, offbeat A and moves to C, I think. But Frank's drum fills, like Dusty's bass tone, not to, you know, to have two great singers in a band with such distinctive voices, the soulful, powerful voice and the bluesy, like moody voice, you know. And I got to know Billy a little bit. I never met Dusty. We played a festival with ZZ in Switzerland a million years ago, and I had just bought a guitar in a music shop that had been there for since 1975. It was brand new, in 1975. They had a black one and a Sunburst Music Man Stingray 2. Still plastic on the pick guard, and it had been sitting there so long there was little melt marks by the neck where it was hanging in the window. So I bought it, and Billy came over to me in the middle of the set. It's like, he like looks over his sunglasses and he's like, he didn't know my name yet, but he's like, helmet dude. I'm like, yeah, that's me, sir. It's like, God, it's great having a fellow guitarist on the side of the stage. It really makes me want to play great. And I'm like, yeah, yes, Mr. Gibbons, So fucking they shredded. They sounded incredible. And he invited me to the dressing room to hang and talk guitars afterwards. And I said, I got this guitar. Would you sign it? And he's like, yeah. And so he said, you want me to sign it or really fuck it up? And I said, go to town. So it's all this pinstriping, Billy ZZ 4-page, and really cool. But I never got to meet Dusty. I saw the documentary and it was really sad because, obviously he had, passed. He was sad about their manager passing away, Ham,
Right.
Dusty, in the documentary, and then knowing that he's gone, yeah, I mean, there's two bands that laymen, people that are not musicians, but they might like play in a band, or mostly singers. How they say, like, how do you know the singer's at the door? They can't find the key and don't know when to come in. Like, a lot of singers just don't get that you have to be a fucking musician just because you don't play an instrument. Like, time, is imperative. Rule 1, Thelonious Monk. Like, so he says, just because you're not a drummer doesn't mean that you don't have to keep time. And that stands for singers too. So I've had a couple of singers say to me, like, your favorite band's AC/DC? And I'm like, yeah. Like, really? Like, Highway to Hell? I'm like, yep. Like, I don't get it. And it's like AC/DC and ZZ Top. That's easy. Have you ever once heard a cover of either of those bands that isn't embarrassing, that doesn't make you cringe? When I first moved here after my divorce, I had no money, and I was getting Bob Kulick, who is, the late sweet Bob Kulick, Bruce Kulick's brother, was producing these tribute albums. He said, $1,000, sing and play Kiss, no problem. $1,000, sing and play Metallica, no problem. $1,000, sing and play AC/DC. Yeah, man. I guess I'll play, but I'm not going to try to sing Bon. It was Rock and Roll Damnation.
Okay.
And I've heard it since, and I just like, so they paid me half because I only did one part, the guitar. And I was like, that was a mistake. Trying to cover ZZ Top, mistake. You just can't, it's other level shit. It's just other level shit. I don't know. Something about those bands that just, for me, just were earth shattering. I don't smoke pot anymore. I mean, twice a year with my bandmates, but when I was in high school, we had a Fandango, Tush, we'd get stoned. We were 17, I guess, my friend Kent McGrew's house, and we'd crank the shit out of ZZ. And we knew, I mean, that was fairly early on, late 70s, and they were staples of our teenage years. So, and it stuck, and it stood the test of the time,
Yeah.
in a huge way. I mean, there's just no substitute, for him. I love Billy. He's the nicest cat. I got to go to his house once. I did a radio show, and he had Pabst Blue Ribbons, and so we were drinking beer, and he was making fun of the guy that was on. It was like this host guy, and he was talking about American Idol or The Voice or something, talent or some shit show, and Billy and I were like, I don't know what the fuck that is, whatever. And and the guy had no idea who I was, none, and it was really hilarious because Billy was just kind of taking the piss. Well, he said, hey, you want to get some, go out. It was me and my dear friend Trina Coletti. She's friends with Billy. And so we stopped by his house, and he was a little bit tipsy, and his wife Gilligan was mad. So he came out and he goes, I'll meet you guys there. I'm in a little hot water. So we went over to Cat and Phil, and I thought, we're not going to see him. It's cool. But he fucking showed up. He was there. And it's like, was great, man. He's just a great dude, man. Just a really great dude. I'm sure I would have liked Dusty and Frank. I know Frank's done a little, damage to himself with the drugs or whatever, but still plays like a fucking, freight train. I mean, it's like they're amazing, man. Fucking amazing. When I had met them him in Europe, Billy sent me a couple of faxes. Like, he got where we were going to be on tour, my hotels. So I gave him, and I show up, and there's a fax from Billy F. Gibbons. He sent me the cover of the in Europe, they'll have topless girls on magazines, right? In Germany and stuff. So there was a supermodel on the cover of it's like People magazine, but the German version. This super beautiful supermodel, and she's like, I think she's squeezing her boobs or something, topless like this, and that's the cover. And then it says from Billy F. Gibbons, Page Hamilton, and he sent me this poem. I have it somewhere. It would take me a while to find it, but I think it would say Edward Black Shines. And then a cure for. God, it was cool. Next thing I know, get back to my place in New York, and every ZZ Top album shows up on CD because I had all vinyl, right? And this is the era of CDs. Sent me every fucking ZZ Top album. You know? Yeah, I mean, just the best, just the coolest cats, man. They're just so badass. I'm so glad we got to play with them. I got to stand on the side of the stage and watch them rock our balls off. It was just amazing. They're just amazing.
Yeah, I think everybody should have to watch that documentary because it does a great job of delving into the 70s stuff that a lot of people don't know about, like you said.
Yeah. They're crazy fuckers, man. Let's take a Texas Longhorn and fucking, Vulture on tour. They're amazing, man. They're really, really great. I'm sad. I was very sad that day, man. And still, it's really a bummer.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time with me today. I'm glad to have you back on once again.
Yeah, great to meet you. I'll see you when we're in Tulsa. Hey.
Absolutely.
Yeah, come and track me down or email or whatever, and then say hey.
All right, we'll do.
I appreciate it.
There you go, Page Hamilton of Helmet. A huge thank you to Tim from Adam Splitter PR for helping set that one up, and of course, a massive thank you to Page Hamilton for taking some time out there to talk to me about all kinds of different stuff that he's got going on. Had a wonderful chat there with him on Zoom just a couple weeks ago. If you listen to the podcast here, the last several episodes, most of the interviews have been recorded a month, 2 months before we get them released. I keep saying we. I've got so used over the years to saying we. I need to start learning to say I guess, since it's just me nowadays. However, what I'm trying to say is that very glad to get this episode with Page Hamilton out, talking about the new release Live and Rare. If you haven't heard it, check it out. And of course, if you haven't heard more recent Helmet like Dead to the World, check that out as well. And if you have not heard episode 298, the first time Page was on here, check that out. It is very cool. Like I mentioned up front, Tommy Victor from Prong has been on here. If this is your first time listening, you can dig back through and check that out. We've also had on, think of some of that other 90s metal stuff like Corrosion of Conformity, who still puts out great music to this day. We've had both Mike Dean and Reed Mullen, rest in peace, on this podcast before. Kenny Hickey of Typo Negative has been on here. We've had Kirk Winstein of Crowbar and Down on here a couple times. Jimmy Bauer of Down and I Hate God and Superjoint has been on here. We've also had on guys from several former members of Megadeth. We've had on Rock and Roll Hall of Famers like Gene Simmons of Kiss, Dizzy Reed of Guns N' Roses, Glenn Hughes of Deep Purple, and many other great acts. Like one of those acts being the Dead Daisies. And I'm very sure you'll hear something about that album on the Best of 2021, because if you have not heard the Dead Daisies album, you're doing your ears a disservice, because it's one of the best albums in the year. I feel like there's one more. Yeah, Vivian Campbell of Def Leppard and Dio, another rock and roll Hall of Famer. But yeah, the list is very long and very fruitful. 337 previous episodes to this one you can check out. You can listen pretty much anywhere podcasts are heard. The website is thethunderunderground.com. You can listen there as well. Wherever you're listening to this right now, hit like or subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Got the episode, like I said, Best of 2021 coming soon. We've also got an episode coming very soon celebrating the life of our friend Eric Bass. Jason will be returning back to the podcast to talk about, I talked a little bit about this last week on the In Theory episode. I didn't go into much about Eric and the fact that he passed away because I'm saving that for that episode. Eric's a longtime friend. Jason, of course, is going to come back for that episode, and I'm also going to bring in two other great friends of Eric, which are Josh Baker and Eric Reese. And Josh, Eric, and Jason, along with Eric Bass, made up the band Zen Hipster. So I figured it was only fitting that all three of them would be here to celebrate the life of Eric. So that will be coming very early in 2022. And we've also got a few other great ones in the works. One of them I really want to talk about right now, but I do not do that because in the past I've mentioned things and then they fall through. I don't want to jinx it. So hopefully the next episode or two I'll have a cool announcement for you. All right. Once again, I hope you have or had a great holiday season. A huge thank you once again to Adam Splitter PR, the Mighty Page Hamilton, DEB Concerts, Hella Hot Hot Sauce, Med Farm, and Sunset Tattoo. And until next time.
Thunder Underground, y'all.